Welcome to The Cafe, part of the Brewed Awakening series here at the Faith Unfiltered Podcast, where a diverse panel of voices bring lived experience, thoughtful insight, and courageous questions to the table. Here at The Cafe, we explore faith journeys without filters, where doubt is welcomed, stories matter, and no topic is off limits. My name is Nick Keehler, and I'm going to be the host for today's conversation. I'm joined today by Linda Stanbridge and Blake Smith. And today we're going to be talking about a book we all read called The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer. This book came up as part of a conversations and a group that me and Linda are a part of called the Mission Development Team, where we're working with the presiding bishopric to try and think more critically about what generosity means in the church. So we all acknowledge that we're not experts on anything and wanted to do some self-education. So I was really passionate about reading this book. I've read Kimmerer's stuff before. I've been working through Braiding Sweetgrass for a while now, but it is some dense stuff and it is all good. But the Serviceberry is way more accessible, it's shorter, and it's a great intro to this topic of ecological justice and abundance that we've been exploring. So welcome, Linda and Blake. How are you both doing?
Good. Thank you so much for being here. And Blake's kind of the victim actually in today's podcast because he got roped in. I said, "Hey, Nick and I have both read this same book. You also just read this book, and do you want to blindly do a podcast with us?" And God bless Blake. Thanks for being here with us.
Yeah, I'm just so excited that you guys are starting the cafe. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. And so, I thought, well, I really want to read that book anyway, so I'll give it a shot. Hopefully I can get it done this week and join you guys for the conversation. So thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing that.
And I don't think we want this to be, people are always looking for great reading material. I'll support any book clubs anyone wants to do. But also, I don't want this to feel like a book report in any way. And if we can tie it into the church and theology and where we're feeling called generally, taking some of the topics and some of the themes, I'm all for it. I'm looking to reformat how the church does church,
Yeah, absolutely. I think a really great compliment I can give this book is that this is the first book since I finished seminary that I read cover to cover. And that's a testament to two things. The book is really good, and it's also really short. So if maybe you're kind of burnt out and you're like, oh, want to get back into reading, or you want to pick up material that's like kind of speaks to what the value church is, like this book is so approachable. It doesn't have a ton of theological language. And again, it's really pretty short. So thanks to this book for helping me achieve a goal I've been really wanting to get to since finishing seminary.
It's so funny that you said that, Linda, because when I offered to do this, I thought, well, I want to go on and find out how long this book is because I've only got a week. And, I'm not a fast reader to begin with. I'm like 128 pages. I think I can do that. I can do that. All right. So, and you're right. I think that, it's not a lot of theological language per se. She actually writes in a way that I would write or talk. And so I really, really enjoyed it. I mean, and it kind of subconsciously points to a lot of theological pieces, though.
Definitely. So when I went to Nick, I was looking for a book on economic justice, which is a deeper topic, but I wanted just like a dip your toes in book. And this was his suggestion to just kind of like open your mind to that without having to go too deep.
Yeah, I've been passionate about this stuff for a very long time. I think looking back, even when I was asked to join this mission development team, I came out point blank and said, look, I'm not your economics guy. I'm not your capitalism guy. I'm not going to be the guy who makes you tons of money. I'm going to be the guy that says there's deep problems with the system. And this book is very good at pointing out those problems. And then also, Kimmerer being, I believe she's Haudenosaunee, an indigenous woman, bringing that cultural value and that cultural perspective of something that's been working on the land for thousands and thousands and thousands of years before colonists came in and started doing capitalism and doing it hard. I found that just really valuable to see there's other ways of organizing our economy. There's other ways of organizing our societies where we can take care of each other for the value of taking care of each other and acknowledging that um, our well-being is tied up in the well-being of our community and of our villages. And I just found that really powerful and speaking to me. Um, so yeah, I'm wondering, is there anything in there that really stuck out to you or anything that really resonated with your life journeys? Like what what was speaking in your past or your future, if that makes any sense?
You know what like really stood out to me just like as a parent, as someone who's trying to teach this as like a core value of who you are as a person, like this idea that, I am responsible for my neighbor and I'm only really okay if my neighbor is also okay. She says, and I was too type B to look up where I read it in the book, but she says something like, if I have extra, like you're talking about, Anishinaabe culture, if I'm a hunter, I still have a way to store my meat. I can salt it, I can dry it, whatever. I can use it later. But the safest place for some extra that I might have, not that you can't dry some of it, but the safest place for that is actually in the belly of my neighbor. That's not even the best place for me to store my meat. Not only is it better for my neighbor, it's also better for me. It's this mutual existence. That's how important it is. And I thought that just really grabbed me as a way to talk again without theological language about something that is a really deep spiritual core of who I want my kids to kind of build their identity on. I thought that was such a powerful way to think about mutuality.
Mhm. Yeah, there's to I'm really glad you brought that up. I love that example, and I think it exemplifies a lot of the things Community of Christ wants to be and like really has been in their history as a communitarian leaning people of look, times are tough. We realize times are tough. We're going through a lot right now. Our real security is going to be in our families and our communities and those who are immediately in our vicinity. Um, I garden a lot here, as much as I can, considering all the shade in my yard. Um, and every now and then I end up with a big flush of tomatoes or a big flush of cucumbers. And like I try as much as possible. Look, I got canning, I got drying or whatever. I could preserve these, although I'm not great at canning yet. I'm still working on it. But I could theoretically preserve these for the winter. Um, but to be very practical, about it rather than the spiritual side. We get power outages out in my area rather frequently. We don't have a generator or anything right now. Um, so to literally store my excess tomatoes in the belly of my neighbor is a great way to say, here's this, we're building a relationship. I value you. I think you value me. And these are the people I can go to when we're when we're facing times of crisis and it's negative 20 degrees and I'm like, hey, I need a fridge to store this stuff that I bought, and I need a warm room for me to be in for a few hours until the power kicks back on. And it's
Mm.
just, you know, how much money would it cost me to go and buy power backups and all this stuff versus how much does it cost me to go and bring a basket of produce to my neighbors?
One
The
of the things I
relationship building. Yeah. The relationship building that goes along with it too is the enriching part, right?
Mhm.
Go ahead, Blake.
no, I really like that piece. I was going to say about the book. I mean, I found myself several times while reading the book wondering if just trying to figure out. So my background, first of all, I'm a little, I'm the older generation here in this panel um, today, and I also come from an area. I don't know if it's the area of the family, but the bottom line, I was not raised and taught to think critically. I wasn't encouraged to think critically. It was here's the information, take it, and that was with beliefs across the board. And when I read books like this, I'm really convicted. I mean, we're talking about abundance and having, and I'm looking around, even just right around me in my immediate surroundings, and thinking, okay, here's just one more area where I wish that I had read this book 30 years ago. I think it would have been life changing then. It's life changing now just because I'm at a place in my life where I really want to think deeply about these things and other social justice issues, and realizing how much a part of the system I have been. So those are things that stood out to me. I mean, it really caught my attention right away, and it kind of I can't even express the emotion, but when she brings to mind the definitions of economics, and speaking from the American Economics Association, and the fact that they start with the study of scarcity.
Mm.
And I mean,
That blew my mind.
that
Yeah.
blew
Like, that
my
explains
mind. Yeah.
everything.
So I
Yeah.
think ultimately that's what stuck. But I found myself wondering why that was so offensive to me now, and it wasn't all the rest of my life. So
Yeah.
I'm late
I
on
had
I'm late
forgotten
on the
about that.
train.
No, I had forgotten about that part of the book, and that really was like mind-blowing for me because I thought it really does explain so much, and it's a lie. It's built on the idea that I have to choose myself. And it is so crazy. As I was first starting to read this book, and she's, in the beginning she's picking serviceberries, and that's where the book gets its name. And um, we recently moved into town, and so I feel kind of deprived of. I'm not as good as Nick. Haven't done the backyard garden, but I was kind of thinking, like, I don't know if I'm going to find myself in this book, but. At the time, we had just had my daughter's birthday party, and I had made like 3 flower arrangements. And I thought, I'm going to have my daughter take one of these over to our neighbors. And so it was just a little mason jar of a couple of roses and whatever, took them over. And a few days later, neighbor texts me, hey, send the girls over. I have something for you. And she sent back some hot chocolate mix that she had homemade for us and sent it back in the mason jar that I had sent the flowers over in. And I was like, oh, Kimmerer, here you are. Here she's watching me through the windows. It's like it can be. I may not have this specific excess. I may not be, a person who can grow a lot in my yard. Maybe I don't have those skills, but there are times that I do have more than I need. And I can use that opportunity to share just something great with my neighbor that deepens our bond. And I just thought, like, I felt, grateful, of course, and that's like kind of the cornerstone of it. We haven't even gotten to that, the gratitude piece of it. But like it felt so good that my neighbor immediately paid that back. It was like she got it, and we're newish to the street, and it just made me feel like, yeah, this is good neighboring. Like this is just good community building stuff. Even if I choose not to go into the systemic part, which please do because it's so important. Like, man, this is really good relationship stuff.
Yeah, I miss the relationships thing. One of the things another thing that I was thinking about a lot as I was reading this, and so I do have a raised bed garden in the backyard, and I travel a lot during the summer, and so it's hard to keep up with it. My wife works a lot, and so I have offered to my neighbors. We don't have a fence in our backyard, and it's easily accessible. And I've offered to my neighbors, please come and get some fresh tomatoes, get some zucchini. Otherwise, they're going to be baseball bats by the time I get back. And they just haven't taken me up on it. And yet I grew up in a time where we knew all of the neighbors on our streets. And so culturally it's different. And I tried, and I have a relationship, very superficial, with my neighbors, but I want to get them to where they just know that I don't want this food to go to waste. It's not like we plant an overabundance. It's a pretty small garden, but there's always an abundance. So my wife's colleagues at work benefit a lot because she ends up taking it there.
Yeah. There, I'm as a small aside, I'm putting in a couple apple trees this year, and I'm hoping to get some berry bushes eventually. And I'm intentionally putting them at like the edge of my yard next to like the street where people are often driving by and stuff, just so I can put signs up and be like, berry picking season, yay. Because
Kids will love you.
oh, I hope so. Uh, as much as I don't want kids running around and talking to me, I would love to see them from the porch and wave at them as they're picking berries. but it's
From a distance.
from a safe distance where they can't say whatever new thing they've learned at school, whatever new trend is going on. I can't keep up. Um, but yeah, Linda, I'm really glad that that happened in such like an immediate turnaround type of way because in reading through this book, she has these parts where she's talking about like, if you go and like, let's say it's a basket of berries and you go to the store and you get a basket of berries and you pay for it, then the transaction is done. You're good. You can throw those berries in the street. You can send them to birds or whatever, send them on the street to give them to birds. And it doesn't matter. Like you can disrespect those berries all you want. It doesn't matter. You don't know the clerk's name when you walk out the store. But when something is given as a gift, when you go and give someone a mason jar full of flowers, then it's this, rather than the energy of that being dead on transaction, it just continues and like compounds within the system. Which is, I grew up watching those pay it forward videos on the news in the mornings where
Yeah.
someone, I think it's like they give $100 and then they continue giving the gift on. But so it's like cheesy to say, but it is this compounding thing within this small localized system that really makes you feel like you're part of something and shows that there's a way of sustaining life outside of just getting money and spending money and getting money and spending money. It's the real people and the real situations that are actually providing for our communities. I thought that was really powerful stuff on Kimmerer's part.
Definitely. And what I think, I mean, certainly part of the interaction was because I had Kimmerer in my mind, right? Because I was looking at three separate flower arrangements that my cats are going to eat. And it was like because of that I realized I had more than I need. And I think like we don't all have excess. It's a really difficult time for a lot of people to maybe not feel like they have enough. And I think it's that, fear of scarcity that can sometimes make us afraid to be generous. But I think, and we should back up to this because we mentioned it earlier about gratitude kind of being sort of this grounding force in this generative activity because it just allows you to change your perspective on what you already have. And it rewrites that lie of scarcity that makes you think you have to consume and consume and consume because your whole perspective on what you already have, like you said, Nick, it's not something you can just throw away. I have all of these things that I'm grateful for that are gifts. I probably have a lot of things in my house that I'm not grateful for that aren't gifts that I need to get rid of, but it's a perspective shift too that kind of Blake, you said like scarcity is sort of this brick that all these other things are built on. Once you realize that that's a lie, you're surrounded by abundance. A lot of these other little dominoes really start to change things, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, I've been trying my best to do gratitude journaling just at like the end of the day and just be like what I'm grateful for, blah blah blah. And a lot of times it's like the coffee was great. I make it myself. I make it great every time. I'm awesome, delicious coffee. The sunshine was
Yes.
amazing. Loved it today. The fresh air was fresher than it's ever been. So it's like these simple things, and I'm not great at doing it at the end of every day, but it's not about writing the things down so much as it is about if I know I have to write these things down at the end of the day, then I'm thinking about what I'm grateful for during the day, and it makes me like I wouldn't care about the sunshine normally. I'd like it, but I wouldn't be thinking about how much I enjoy it. And the same is true for like food. And I'm not a person who is like diligent about praying before every meal or anything. But if I get the chance to like think about like literally just think about how I'm thankful that I have this in front of me, then it makes me literally, like you're saying, appreciate it a lot more. And there's a line in the book where she's like, gratitude puts the brakes on overconsumption. And it's
Mm.
simply like by being grateful for whatever I have. Like, let's say it's beans and rice and cheese and some Cholula hot sauce. Um, and I express gratitude for that before, then I'm way more likely to eat that and not be like, all right, time for a little sweet treat, time for a little crack of the old Diet Coke or whatever it is that day. Um,
You watch yourself on the Diet Coke, Nick Keehler.
yeah, you don't want to see that. That's a dangerous person.
Oh, that's yeah. Me without Diet Coke is a dangerous person.
But yeah, it's just yeah, it really does, like in such an immediate way, it puts the brakes on my overconsumption or my even the zucchinis in the garden. It's like that's awesome. I grew these myself. I'm very grateful for them because I put in the work, and I don't feel like I don't need to stockpile my house full of things that I'm not going to eat at any point in time because I don't know, and it makes it easier to give stuff away. So it's it's this perspective shift that's really, really seems easy on the surface, and it makes a huge world of or it has made a huge world of difference for me.
Have you guys ever done that spiritual practice? It's before lunch. We're talking a lot about food today, but have you done the spiritual practice where you sit down and it can be with something really simple like a sandwich or a salad, and you're looking at the items that have made up your food and then
Mm.
practicing gratitude for each of those things. Like if I have bread, that probably wasn't grown in my hometown, and thinking about where that came from and all the people it took to bring that to me. I think there's probably a way for us to wire ourselves to have gratitude, even for the things that we feel like we have distance from, by reminding ourselves, of all the hands and relationships and networks that had to connect in order for us to get those pieces. It's probably easier. I'm thinking through the mom lens now. It's probably easier for me to teach that as I send my kids next door with, I always send a couple extra cookies next door if I make some. That's maybe an easier example, but I think spiritually, we can take the time to kind of intentionally practice that gratitude with some of these, even just really kind of monotonous things, the sweet treat
Mm.
that we just inhale without much thought. The spirituality is everything. We can take this moment to just be like, wow, this cocoa, it's come from so far. Thank you to the farmers that hopefully sustainably harvested it in a humane environment. But it can force us to kind of have that spiritual approach to all of the things that we consume.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think Kimmer brings up a piece that I don't often think about. I have done that practice, but I'm usually focused on the people that made it happen, that brought it to life, that kind of thing. And I was really captured with the acknowledging of how much all of creation plays into getting that bread. I mean, even, plants or trees that have died and the nutrients from those have enriched the soil, which makes the soil rich to grow particular plants in particular regions and makes it, I mean, the depth and circle of all that is engaged and involved in that is just mind blowing. I mean, you could literally spend all day in gratitude for one thing, but it is that pause, I think, is so important. And I don't do it often enough. I know that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that too, and it's my own privilege to not have to think so much about all of the people that have made my day possible. So such a good, important reminder for me.
Mhm. I think there's
I'm I
this.
Oh
No, go
no, go
for it.
ahead, Nick. Nope, because I was going to change the subject.
Oh,
You
okay.
go ahead.
Well, to end it, I think I also just want to bring in this interesting, um, I don't know, maybe it's like a double think type thing that I think throughout it, throughout the book, Kimmerer acknowledges that there is this deep human element that goes into creating the things we use every day. So even with like the service berries that she came over to pick, were like on her neighbor's farm, planted by her neighbor, uh, for an eventual pick your own system where people, would pay and their kids would come and have a great time, like a pumpkin patch, but for berry picking. Um, so there's this really, really real human labor element that goes into these things that deserves to be given some gratitude. And then there's also this theme that she lifts up of like everything being a gift from the earth and showing gratitude to the gifts of the earth. And even the service berries are that, they were planted by a human. And in addition, they are freely giving their berries for the birds to eat and then fly away and then through the digestive tract plant those seeds somewhere else. And it's this super cool system of symbiosis. It's like we're all acting in a way self-servingly, but our self-serving is inherently serving the entire community. It is feeding the birds with our fruit. So it's this interesting double think that I really appreciate because you can't go pick an apple without understanding. I'm sorry. I said I didn't want to monologue, and now here I am monologuing.
Your voice is
Anyways,
coming back to get you.
coming
No,
back
I
to get
think
me.
that is such a great point, and it connects with what you were just saying, because as you've described the system, like she does, you realize that overconsumption is a violation that makes the system not work. You know what I mean? That's a stick in the spokes, because that's when it immediately stops working. Because she talks about if she goes to the serviceberry bush and she picks everything that's there, well, now there's none for the birds. So now they can't go. And then you said kindly through the digestive tract, provide us with new serviceberries. You know what I mean? The ground isn't receiving some of those nutrients from the berries that fall. And so her own, if she were to overconsume, to think only of herself and not everybody else in that system, the system fails. It is truly built for us to just take what we need and provide for our neighbors too.
I love that you guys talk about that with the birds, because I had this. I'm a very visual person, and so what stuck with me about the story, and as a teachable moment, is the purple splash of
Yeah.
that's left on the fence post. I think our world trains us, our society trains us to focus on that purple splash rather
Yeah.
than the process of planting the seeds that comes from that, and this natural process that goes on. And we need to, hopefully with this gratitude piece, then we can change our focus, because typically I would get frustrated because I have to keep cleaning my fence, but I'm not thinking about what that is a symbol of in this process that's taking place.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. I'm looking at our shared notes here, and I'm gonna maybe ask Nick to monologue again, because I'm just seeing in his notes something that says the gift economy exists in pockets, like the kingdom of God, fully present yet not quite here, which is pretty profound. So you're just up another line there, Nick.
Oh, thank
You
you. Thank you
wanna?
for the compliment, I
Would you
guess.
mind to monologue?
I would love to monologue to the full extent of my abilities. Um, taking me back to my college days. Yeah, I think that thought just came up in regard to throughout the book, Kimmerer brings up all these examples of what a gift economy could look like, and she references like, yo, look, I'm an old timer. She's a professor, I think, so she has a lot of interaction with the youth of the day. And so she's like, my knowledge of the gift economy is like, she has this example of a free farm stand where a farmer puts their produce and people are free to come and take it. And she lives on this country road, and it's this beautiful example of a gift economy. And then the kids are all like, oh yeah, there's plenty of examples of like a digital commons space where software is shared for free. There's time sharing apps that people can, log. Hey, I helped, I don't know, fix my neighbor's furnace for 2 hours. I have 2 hours logged. Can someone come help me, let's say, pick some apples for an hour, and then can someone help me paint my fence for an hour? And it's this like internal economy, which I think is super duper cool, and subversive, and I'm all about the subversion. And it's all these little tiny pockets, because I think understanding that we exist within capitalism, that is the world in which we live. It's not a system. It's a system that I have lots of problems with personally, which I won't get into, but um, it's the reality of our world. So resistance and change always happens in these small pockets, I feel. So like the kingdom of God, if we can fully be present in Jesus, I think in Luke talks about, we can be fully present in the kingdom of God. We need to fully accept that it is here. We can do it right here, right now. And it's not everywhere yet. It's fully here. It's fully accessible. We can fully be present with our neighbors and fully experience all the gifts that God has to offer in this new reality. And we acknowledge that we're still living in the in the real world. So that's just what the gift economy has been representing to me lately. I think I'll, I'll I'll talk real quick about some of the work we've been doing for my work has been there was that lapse in SNAP benefits a while ago last year, and so we tried to organize really quickly with all the food pantries in the area to try and get some food drives going and just get people sharing because the thought is like, okay, if the government isn't going to take care of the people that need to be taken care of with the tax dollars, um, then the community is going to rally together. And the community absolutely rallied together, and we have this, continuing food security effort. And what I found to be super cool was we found a small group that has some community pantries in the area, and it's just like the free farm stand. It's just at the end of some people's houses, in this like decentralized system, and they stock it with whatever food is available, and they get help from now our food security efforts where we're collecting food. Um, and I've, not to go on too long, but even when the SNAP benefits lapsed, I saw a lot of posts with people who I may not agree with politically talking about, oh, it's great that communities are rallying together. We're all doing this together, which yeah, it's totally great. And I think it's something we can all get on board with, of like communities taking care of communities, our own local communities. It's something that is like transcending political divides of I need to take care of Jeff. I live next door to Jeff, and Jeff needs help just like I need help. So it's those, we're not gonna beat the extraction of a financially focused market broad scale, but we can start to create alternatives within our local communities, and I'll call them like our local villages, because I feel like that has just a more personal aspect and a personal sound to it.
That's great. I appreciated that Kimmer addressed or talked about the fact that we respond incredibly in the midst of tragedy. So we know we have the capacity. Look at the amount of stuff that is given in a moment of tragedy. It's always there. Food is being thrown away every day. Things are going out of date in stores, and they're just dumped. And a lot of regulations prohibit them from giving it away, especially cooked food. I remember several years back we had a bout of 3 days of 50 below weather, 50 degrees below zero. And so we opened the church for the houseless population in the area of that church. And we went around trying to get donations to help feed. And I went to a prominent store in the area and asked them. And although the manager was very much in favor of helping, they said, we just can't. Our corporation will not let us, because if the food, if they get ill, they'll come back and sue us. We have to throw it away. And I was looking that particular night at how much food was going to be thrown away. We have to start thinking in a way that, as you mentioned, Nick, we cross barriers. It doesn't matter about politics. When these things happen, people come from all walks of life to help and to give, and from their abundance. That abundance doesn't happen just in times of tragedy. The abundance is always there, is what I'm trying to say. And I appreciate that she brought that up. And I wish I knew a way to help people say, and I've been lucky in a couple times. I don't usually get to travel to the area that was disaster hit, but we had a situation here where our rivers were flooding after a particular winter thaw, and people gathered at one of the areas to fill sandbags. And it was just an incredible morning. And there was joy, and, just the way people were interacting together as if they had been friends forever. And I thought, why don't we see how incredible this is and recreate it in times where disaster is not our reason for gathering?
Yeah, I'm happy you talked about the joy aspect of that because, like, in a lot of these things, I really see community of Christ theology and like ideology being really, really present. And you can gather and do some work and be upset about it all you want, but that's not really what community is about. It's about getting together and saying we all have a common cause. We are a common people, and we're gonna get together and we're gonna sing some songs while we're filling sandbags or whatever. And I think that's really awesome. And it can take place out like it's an organizational thing, right? It can take place outside of these huge events. To be really brief, I watched a video a while ago of a farmer he's like, my goal starting the farm was to not sell any food, so he tries to give all the food away. And what he found was that people are often like, he'll go and say, "Hey, are you willing to accept some soup or accept some tomatoes?" And people would be like, "Me? What? Well, my stars. Like, I don't. I'm good. You should give this to someone who really needs it." And he's like, "I want to give it to you. You're the person. You're in my community. I want to help you." And it's this w- rugged American individualism doesn't like allow us to receive help easily, even if, you know, no matter who you are, you're never the one who has it the worst, right? But if we don't start in our communities, if we don't start filling those sandbags with our river, like we can't hope to make this a broader movement. So I just thought that was interesting that I didn't realize that was a problem.
Another piece to that I've had the pleasure of encountering, and I say now after the fact, the pleasure of encountering, it was a very uncomfortable situation in the moment when someone I knew had less than me was offering me a gift
Hmm.
and wanting to just say, "Oh, no, 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 you keep that," and not allowing them the opportunity to express generosity. And having some realizing that receiving the gift sometimes can be as important as giving the gift because you're allowing them to give, and that's hard. That's really, really hard. I had a situation where I was working in Cleveland area, and I was working with a young man who I knew had nothing. He invited me into his apartment. He was an incredible artist, and anyway, I knew that he had nothing in his refrigerator, and yet if he did get anything, it would be shared. Like if I have two eggs, I'm going to give one to my neighbor because I know they have less than I do. And I'd been working with him for several months, and one day he just said, "Hold on a minute, I want to get something real quick." And we had been going around actually collecting, rummaging through stuff off the side of the furniture off the side of the road and taking it to people who needed it, that kind of thing. And he came running down with a box of premier chocolates. I mean, that he had apparently been given at some point. And he said, "Here, I want you to have them." And I know it was the only thing in his freezer. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is a luxury that he probably never has, and he wants to give it to me. And it was very hard for me to accept. So I think but it's important for us to, and not to overdo it, but right, to allow others to give. That's also an important piece.
Yeah. But as we talked about kind of that cycle of, it's the receipt and the response that it's important for us all to be able to sort of participate in that to feel part of the community and to feel connected. And it doesn't probably matter the value of the gift in that moment. It's so much harder when it's something that's so valuable and it says so much about how much that person values you, right? So it can be
Right.
humbling to the point of being uncomfortable. But yeah.
And I'd really done more with him to help the community than to help him. But in helping the community, I was helping him, I guess. That's the way he saw it. And so it was a really important, impactful moment for me to kind of be in that place. And I've heard other, ministers in the church who've traveled around the world and go to economies that are very minimal, and they're so gracious with their gifts, and to receive that generosity is important. So, I mean, the cycle is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there anything else that we should add about the Serviceberry? I think we probably could keep going, but I do want. This isn't a book review, but I'm still hoping people are going to go buy it and read it. for
It's worth it.
themselves too.
It's worth it.
Yeah, very good. Anything that you want to add, Nick, that we've missed?
I'm looking around now. I feel like we hit a lot of good stuff here. I'm just I'm I just want to reiterate that I'm super passionate about this stuff. I'm super into it, and I would love to see our church kind of lean into it more. We do really good on potlucks. We do really good, like I said, historically on like generosity and being a communal people, and I'm excited to see how much this takes off.
Yeah, I think this book would be great for anybody, but maybe especially for CFOs or deacons or other people who do a lot of talking about generosity. Or this would be such an approachable, like a book study or Sunday school, because it's
Mhm.
doesn't use a lot of great big words and it's really story based too. So
Mhm.
I think this book would be great for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think a couple of reasons why it's good, like I said originally, I mean, she just writes in a way that's very conversational and comfortable. It doesn't sound like it's coming from above to tell me all the things that I'm doing wrong and that kind of thing, but gently shares her experience and gives some real practical ways. Like Linda, you talked about the flowers, and I mean, we think we hear people preach about, the lawyer who was told to give up everything and then come follow me. And I don't think that's what we're being asked to do. There's some just everyday, gentle ways that we can become engaged in this gift economy that can change lives and change our world in small but impactful ways.
Yeah, and if you like to disrupt the system, this is a great way to subvert it. Gift
Yep.
economies,
Hey!
anti-empire. All right, friends. Well, thank you for tuning in today. You've been listening to The Cafe, part of the Brewed Awakening series at Faith Unfiltered Podcast. I'm Linda Stanbridge, here with Blake Smith and my friend Nick Keehler, and we want to thank you for taking time out of your day to spend time with us. Go out there and have a great day, or make it a great day. Whatever Robin's send-off is, it is hereby copied. Have a great day, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Bye.